Hey Hound Dogs, I'm David Hankins.
And I'm Paul Hankins.
And welcome to On the Air with Power Squared.
If you were watching this on YouTube and you like what you're about to hear, then be sure to like and subscribe.
All right. So we're going to talk this week about, as you can probably tell from behind us, the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4.
That's right.
Which is already underway.
Yeah.
But with the coming out soon of Black Widow, we thought it'd be a time to maybe to talk about it again.
Yeah. If you pay attention to our YouTube channel, then you would be aware that at least last year,
or before,
1 or 2 years ago,
yeah.
When we did the A Week in Power Squared show, we briefly talked about our thoughts on the MCU Phase 4. So since that's underway, we thought we'd revisit it, especially because it's expanded a bit since last time we talked about it.
Yeah, they're, I guess, having a 5 and 6. You know, they're going after 2028 or something with these films.
Yeah.
We don't want to make you think that we're Marvel experts and anything like that. We have seen the 23 films that made up the first 3 phases over 10 years. So we were, I'll say, loyal fans in that respect.
Yeah.
But we're not like, oh, this character, and you know, that kind of stuff. So, so as I said, it's underway. What they're also doing is making you watch Disney Plus.
Yes.
And watch the shows there that have something to do with they're part of the story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the first one of that was WandaVision.
Yeah.
Which was basically kind of a sitcom, as I understand it, and we didn't watch that.
No. It's not that we didn't like those characters, it's just that we didn't feel as interested.
We did watch
the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right, and partly because I like those characters.
Yeah.
And I want to see what they did with them. And I guess, if I understand it right, the Falcon is going to become Captain America.
Yeah.
So it was kind of good to see that, but it's kind of sad that you have to watch the television show to understand the movies.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know how much they're going to have some sort of thing to catch you up or whatever, or they're just going to pick up, you know.
Right.
Because they kind of did that a little bit with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Trying to, you know.
Yeah, there were some Marvel like MCU related shows before Phase 4, but the shows were not canon to the movies, but the movies affected them.
Right.
So there was less of an incentive to really like get invested in the shows because none of that stuff was ever going to come back.
Right.
So I guess before we really get into what's listed, according to Wikipedia,
right, which is our source for everything.
We got really invested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe since the original Iron Man. We watched every movie, even though some of them felt like homework, like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And some of them were kind of lackluster, like Ultron or Thor 2.
Yeah.
And then when we saw Endgame, that made everything feel worth it. Like the investment in the whole thing really felt worth it with Endgame, and Endgame felt like a definitive conclusion to some extent.
But then they had the SpiderMan movie after that. But yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it felt like a real conclusion to everything that happened, and it felt like this big, not only like narrative climax, but emotional climax.
Right. You kind of felt like, phew, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, at least we felt that way.
Yeah. Marvel's not done. And I guess I'll say that for the most part, the Marvel movies are better than the DC movies.
Yeah.
And they seem to have figured out the secret sauce better, I think.
Yeah.
And it may be the characters that they're concentrating on. I mean, there are some good DC. Shazam was good.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, the first one, was good.
Yeah.
But there's not that many by comparison. And that really long movie, Zack Snyder's cut of
Justice League,
was, a long version of Justice League.
Yeah, I mean, the Snyder Cut was better, but it was still long.
Right.
But anyway.
So, let's talk, because on July 9th, the first of the films comes out.
Yes.
And that's going to be Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
So, I'm sort of interested in seeing that.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a character that was in a lot of the movies, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
And kind of felt like, okay, yeah, she kind of deserves a backstory.
Yeah, like some of her backstory was fleshed out a little bit during the MCU, but this is the first time she's had like the spotlight entirely focused on her.
Mm-hmm.
And she and Hawkeye were the only of the original team that didn't get anything focused on them. So it'll be interesting to see Black Widow carry her own story.
Right. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll probably watch it at home.
Yeah.
Because we're not ready yet to
go to the
theater and possibly, we're all fully vaccinated, but still, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather caution on the
err on the side of caution.
Right, or caution. Yeah, there you go. So
then after that is in September is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which, from my understanding, would be the first Asian-led film in the MCU.
Right. And I'm sure it's kind of, I'm sure we'll play well in China, which is probably why perhaps they're doing it.
Right. Representing the Asian community and appealing to China.
Right.
But anyway, the only thing I really know is that they'll show the actual Mandarin.
That's fine, don't worry about it. Yeah. Oh, the Mandarin that the guy that.
The Mandarin in Iron Man 3 was not the real Mandarin.
Right.
Real Mandarin will be in Shang-Chi.
Huh. Well, there you go.
That said, I'm not as invested with.
Honestly, I'd never heard of the character until it was announced that it was going to be a movie. I mean, that may be just me, not being a huge Marvel fan, but it wasn't. I mean, I know they found sort of gold by picking on using characters that were not really well known, like the Guardians of the Galaxy and Iron Man to a certain degree, and were able to sort of make a franchise out of those. Yeah. And I'm sure they're trying that with this as well, and there'll probably be a lot of those they'll probably be doing if this goes on until 2028. Right.
But yeah, that's not really going to be like a have to see it day one.
Right.
For me. And then November is Eternals, which, from my understanding, is basically a race of godlike beings. Or
like Thanos' cousins.
Kind of.
Okay.
The kind of an issue I've seen with revealing these characters now is, where were you when Thanos is going on his genocidal rampage across the universe? Mm-hmm. So you're gonna really have a lot of explaining to do.
Well, they were on vacation. They weren't here. They didn't have good internet connection. Yeah, that's gonna be kind of interesting because they could have stopped him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just again, I don't really feel too hyped for Eternals.
Okay.
How do you feel?
Yeah. Again, they weren't characters that I was really familiar with, so I'm not really.
Yeah.
It's. Yeah, and these may be really good movies, and we may change our mind once we hear about how great they are or whatever. But we're just kind of giving you our feeling now.
Yeah. So just in the moment.
Right. Based on what little we know about these titles.
Yeah. Then there's SpiderMan No Way Home, which will be the 4th movie in 2021, apparently.
Right, and everything is about home with that guy.
Yeah. So that'll be the 3rd one with Tom Holland as Spider-Man. 3rd one that's just Spider-Man with Tom Holland.
Right.
And from my understanding, that's the end of his contract.
Okay. So they're gonna reboot it again.
Well, I don't know what they'll do. That may be the last time he's just their solo. No word on if he might appear again later. But
Right.
the only reason I might watch No Way Home because we've seen pretty much every other Spider-Man movie,
Yes, so far.
and it's hopefully that's supposed to like round out whatever story they were going for. So
Okay.
hopefully it actually does that, unless it's just more setup.
Are they gonna bring back? I can't think of I'm terrible with character names, even my own. But the bird character. Vulture.
I don't know. It would be interesting if they did.
Yeah.
Because he was a good villain.
Because they kind of set it up where he was coming back.
Yeah.
At some point. So I would think they'd have to kind of do that. The thing I'm less intrigued by this version of Spider-Man because they sort of made him into Iron Man Jr.
Yeah.
Because it's the suit does everything.
Yeah. Listen, it could be a whole other discussion, but the MCU in general is pretty Iron Man centric. He's kind of more or less the main character. And so that kind of spilled over into the MCU's interpretation of Spider-Man, like, it's just Iron Man again.
Yeah, except for, I liked it when it was the original Spider-Man series of films.
Sam Raimi trilogy?
Yes, where he was actually bitten by a spider and had to shoot the webs out and all that.
Tom Holland's Spider-Man was bitten by a spider, they just didn't show it. Because they briefly mentioned that in dialogue. They just didn't show it because they didn't want to rehash the origin again.
But what I'm trying to say is, you got the sense that he could shoot
with
the Tom Holland,
organic web shooters versus the mechanical web shooters.
Because there's really no reason to him being bitten by a spider because the suit does.
I guess we were frozen according to this. Did we just move on with audio?
I guess so.
So then after that is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
And so it's weird to see yourself just standing there. The first Doctor Strange movie was like homework. I felt like I had to go see it because it was part of this MCU.
Yeah.
He was better as an ensemble character.
Yeah.
And so I like it better as an ensemble. I'm not sure how much I'm going to get into another standalone. We're frozen. Should we do something about that, or?
I don't know what we can do about that.
Okay, that's weird.
It says the director for Multiverse of Madness is Sam Raimi.
Wow. So now that gives me some hope.
Yeah.
And maybe I'd want to watch that. So that gives me a little more hope that maybe I'd want to watch it if it's Sam Raimi, because he really knew. I think he was obviously made the best Spider-Man films. Maybe he could do something more with Doctor Strange, make it a little more interesting.
Yeah. His horror background could be interesting for that.
Right.
So then after that is Thor: Love and Thunder, directed by Taika Waititi.
Yes, and he did a really good job with Ragnarok. That was the best of the Thor films.
Yes.
And so, he's he did that Jojo Rabbit film as well, and so he's I think a good director, and he brings a certain amount of humor to it that those films kind of need anyway.
Yeah.
Why are we frozen?
I don't know. Let's move on.
Okay.
So.
It's gonna be a great video. Then it's Black Panther.
Wakanda Forever.
And
if that's the subtitle.
Right. You've lost your main actor.
Right.
Be interesting to see how they deal with that.
Oh, like I said, with Wonder Woman 1984, it'll be some comic book stuff.
Yeah.
Like comic book magic.
Yeah. So that'd be interesting to see how that works out.
Should I just remove Just stare at that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
Okay. Then we have later at the end of November of 2022.
We have the Marvels,
Right.
which I don't know too much about. It will have
Captain Marvel,
yes.
Brie Larson returning, and she is joined by Tiona Paris, who was first introduced as the adult Monica Rambeau.
And WandaVision.
Right. So, oops, missed that.
And I guess it'll have Kamala Khan,
Okay.
Ms. Marvel.
So, yeah,
Uh,
which will then feed into the Disney series that we'll talk about later.
yeah.
So, I like Captain Marvel.
Right.
I'd read the comic book. That was one of the ones I had read, so I did enjoy seeing that character, and she was sort of the hero in the kind of at the end of the series.
Yeah.
Kind of came through and helped them. So, I might want to see the Marvels.
Okay.
Then we have AntMan and the Wasp,
Quantum Mania.
starting off 2023.
Right. Well, what do we think of the other Ant-Man movies?
I like them.
Yeah, the first one was probably better from a writing standpoint than the second one, but I don't really like those, so I guess Quantumania is kind of a maybe.
Right.
The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I already want to see it anyway because James Gunn,
Right.
he was really good with Guardians, and I've been a fan of some of his other work, like he wrote Lollipop Chainsaw.
Right.
So
One of the things that they sort of set up at the end of the big Marvel Phase 3 was Thor going with them.
right,
I haven't seen anything saying that that's what's going to happen in this. I thought that was a really great setup.
yeah, it would be cool.
Yeah. And he goes away with them at the end of the movie, doesn't he? I think he's on board the ship or something.
From my memory, it's yeah. Probably.
So, the one thing I'll go back to Thor: Love and Thunder is I understand Tessa Thompson's going to be in it as well, and I like their pairing. I even like them in Men in Black International.
Right.
Because I like them together. I think they make a good on-screen pairing, not necessarily couple, but they play off each other well. So I'd be interested to see them again together. So I guess sounds like Thor we're gonna go see.
And then Fantastic Four, we've been burned twice already.
Yes.
So I'm hesitant to
jump on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's now that you could say that was Fox's doing, not Marvel's doing.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of, and then I remember the first one, it was almost, the thing was a little almost, over the top, and then they changed some of wasn't it brothers and sisters, and then they weren't brothers and sisters, and
it was the 2015 one just really messed everything up.
Well, I remember there was something in there where they used a Dodge engine or something. Talked about it's, wow.
Right. The Fantastic Four Rise of Silver Surfer.
Right. So we've burned 3 times.
I guess we burned 3 times. So not too enthusiastic about the MCU's interpretation of Fantastic Four because clearly it hasn't worked yet.
Right.
I'm sure they could somehow make it work, but I wouldn't go out and see it like day one.
Right.
So I guess moving on to the TV series.
Well, Blade is actually on here as well.
Well, in a different list.
Okay. Well, the list I have, it's on. All right, so moving on to the TV series, we talked a little bit about WandaVision.
And how we didn't watch it.
And we talked about Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And how we liked it.
And now it's Loki is actually out and playing.
Yeah.
It's been out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And we have seen...
Nothing. Okay, Loki, that's, from my understanding, that's building off a plot thread from Endgame.
Okay.
I don't know if I should explain it because I don't know if it's too much of a spoiler, but we've already kind of spoiled something anyway. So the part where where Loki ends up getting away,
Right.
and so it's building off of that. I like Tom Hiddleston's take on Loki, but
Yes.
it's not. I guess we just weren't like I need to see this
On a weekly basis, or
right.
or one big day. I don't know if I think they're talking about weekly as opposed to Netflix.
Yeah, Disney Plus has been putting their original content out weekly.
So I'm not sure I need a Loki fix every week.
Right.
Yeah. And then I think it's already, like, season 2 is already planned, so.
Yeah. So then after that is What If? Okay, What If? I think that's based on a kind of story that Marvel has done, where it explores alternate versions of events. Like what they have in this blurb is what if Peggy Carter became the first super soldier.
Right.
And interestingly, the Jane Foster Thor storyline that Thor: Love and Thunder is going to adapt was originally explored in a What If one shot.
Right.
So What If, from my understanding, will be an animated series, which actually works for exploring an alternate reality, because then they don't have to necessarily spend as much money on doing all the live action stuff together.
The animation is not cheap, but
Right, but it would work better for kind of doing whatever they want to.
and so this is going to be an anthology series. So I guess it'll be reimagining a lot of the storylines.
Yeah.
So that might be interesting.
Yeah. Then we have Ms. Marvel, which is definitely going to be Kamala Khan.
Okay.
She's well known for being a Muslim superhero.
Right.
She has, from my understanding, she has Captain Marvel's powers.
Yes. According to this little blurb.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
I'm not committed to Ms. Marvel at the moment because I didn't really read any of the comics.
Right.
Or I read like one issue, but I just there were other things that caught my attention. It has nothing to do with Ms. Marvel as a character. It's just
just the name alone makes you think they're just trying to Marvel. Just use that name. But anyway, yeah. And then there's finally Hawkeye getting his day in the sun.
yeah. Yeah. What do you think of the idea of Jeremy Renner carrying his own season?
Could be interesting. I mean, they also have Holly Steinfeld involved.
Yeah.
And or Haley Steinfeld, and she's I've liked her in everything things I've seen her in, True Grit and Bumblebee, to bookend her career. But so that could be interesting. They kind of gave him sort of a family life and all that kind of stuff, a little away from everybody else's. So Jeremy Renner's he's a likable guy. Hawkeye was kind of but there's also that he also has reputation for being Hawkeye,
Right. Anyway, Moon Knight is after that. I'm not all in on Moon Knight.
Okay.
I don't really know that much about the character.
It's a new series.
Well, of course it is.
The action adventure features a complex vigilante who suffers from dissociative identity disorder. Fun for the family.
I'm sure they'll make Moon Knight work. I just am not too invested in the character.
Right.
After that is SheHulk.
Right.
That one could actually be interesting because she's an attorney.
Yeah.
Who has the ability to turn into a Hulk-like being.
Ah. Now, wasn't she Deadpool's lawyer or something like that?
Yeah, in the Deadpool comics, she is Deadpool's attorney.
Right.
But in this case, she deals with legal cases involving superhumans.
Okay.
So that could actually be an interesting twist on like courtroom drama.
Right, and then it does include Mark Ruffalo would be appearing as Hulk. What's their relationship, Hulk and SheHulk? Are they just two people that are Hulks, or?
I'm not sure. I think on Wikipedia I saw something about like cousin.
Okay.
Don't at me on that, as people would say.
Because I mean, he got his powers through some sort of like
gamma radiation.
Yeah, I mean.
I don't know about SheHulk.
Okay.
Except I'm aware that in her, at least in her original comic series, she was able to break the fourth wall.
Okay.
Then we have Secret Invasion.
Yes. Stars Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury and Ben Mendelsohn as the
Skrull Talos. Characters who we first met in Captain Marvel.
Right.
So, I guess it's an event series. Again, I don't know too much about that.
Oh, I remember the Skrulls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then you got like Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
You know, big name. So I don't think he would do crap.
Right. Then there's the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which I might watch anyway. That could be really funny.
Yeah, hopefully it's better than the Star Wars Holiday
Yeah.
Special.
Well, it's got James Gunn again.
Yeah.
So that's good. Then we have Ironheart, which is basically trying to do Iron Man again with a different character, I guess.
Okay.
I'm just not gung-ho about it.
I assume they feel they need that kind of, you know, as you said, Iron Man was sort of held the whole thing together, kind of, and so maybe they feel like this, and he's dead, so maybe they're trying to revise that with somebody else.
Probably, but again, I'm not like,
woohoo.
Yeah. Then Armor Wars.
Oh, done. Cheeto comes back.
Yeah. So I like him.
Yes.
So that might something with War Machine might actually be interesting.
So now we're basically saying we're watching more than half of these things.
Well, some of them are like they're maybes.
Yeah.
So the Armor Wars is more of a maybe.
Okay.
Then
finally.
Okay, the Wikipedia list says Untitled Wakanda series, but this other list says I Am Groot.
Right. So who do we believe?
Well, either way, it's one of those two.
Okay, yeah.
So, how do you feel about Groot carrying his own series?
It depends on really who he's co-starring with.
Yeah.
I mean, as a character that just says his name, you know, and you need somebody to interpret. Oh, he's saying this and whatever. That was what Rocket did.
Yeah.
So you need somebody. You need that sort of balance, I think, with a character like that.
Yeah.
And so, not knowing anything about it, my first thought is, not sure I want to see it.
All right, so that's how we feel about Phase 4. It's how we feel in the moment. Our thoughts might change later. Maybe Black Widow will suddenly get us interested, but I really don't know.
Yeah. It's a lot of it, as you said, is kind of hit and miss, and it's after 10 years and 23 films, I feel like we put a lot into that.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, there's a little bit of, I don't want to get sucked back into another decade of must-see films, I guess.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I've done that. You've done it to me once. And Disney has I'll say, because that's who owns Marvel.
Right.
They have the advantage of having all these major franchises that they can just keep going back to and back to and back to, and you kind of hope that they don't, solo one of these movies.
Yeah.
Because that was sort of like a misstep, which they're going to continue to make those with, I hate to say it, probably with Star Wars. But, and they kind of did. They kind of botched that third trilogy.
Yeah.
As we've discussed. not necessarily on the show, but so you kind of worry that they might just get a little too maybe lazy or disorganized or something.
Yeah, and I feel like if they keep releasing the Marvel stuff at the rate that they're going, which is apparently going to be like 4 films a year,
right?
Then they run a real risk of being oversaturated.
Yeah, I mean, because they're probably also trying to lightning strike twice. Maybe we could get everybody. But the thing that worked with that whole first 3 phases was there was an end game.
Yeah.
Literally involved in it, and I don't see that here yet.
Yeah.
And maybe they're going to try to pull all this together, but it's kind of like you can't. Was it Toy Story 3? Which is another Disney franchise, where they were going down the incinerator chute.
Yeah.
You can't make me do that every film.
Yeah.
So put me through that kind of ringer. So yeah, they have to you have to really worry about oversaturation, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that about covers it.
Right. I guess it does.
Yeah. So until next time.
Yeah, I'm David Hankins.
I'm Paul Hankins.
And you've been on the air with Power Squared.